it's not an easy thing to explore the intersection of religion and sexuality. And the fact that you're choosing to do it on your Saturday means so much to me personally. I'm really, really grateful for you to be here. So as Rachel said, my name is Elena Joy. So who am I? I am a DEI consultant, so a diversity, equity, inclusion consultant. Companies, nonprofits, schools, faith organizations hire me to help create a culture of safety and belonging. And on the side, I get to do that with families and family organizations as well, which is really amazing. I am a mom of 4 beautiful kids, 2 of which are BYU students. I am the executive director of Pride and Joy Foundation. Our mission is to reduce the rate of suicide and homelessness in the LGBTQ community. I'm also the director of Pride and Joy Publishing. We're the only publisher of solely LGBTQ+ authors of nonfiction work in America and Canada. Those are the ones I've checked out. But for our time here, who am I? The part of me that matters is that I am a conversion therapy survivor. And I'm going to be sharing some really hard things with you today. And I want you to know that as a professional speaker and facilitator, I never speak from my wound, only from the scar. I do not use my audiences as therapists because it's not fair to you, it's not fair to me, and it's not fair to my therapist. So know that when I share these things, it is not traumatic for me. But I need you to be very self-aware for yourself as I share these things. In fact, the sole way that I was able to heal from my conversion therapy was through a practice of self-awareness and mindfulness. And I define that as the intentional observation of your thoughts, actions, and emotions without judgment. And so I invite you to start that practice today. As I go through this presentation, be observant of your thoughts, your emotions, even your actions sitting in these seats, but don't judge them. It's a wonderful practice, muscle to flex, especially in times of hard conversations like this. So let's go back about 5 years ago. As Rachel said, I was a fully active member of the LDS Church. I had been in Scouts or Young Women's for about 15 years. I helped over a dozen boys get their Eagle Award through radical pressure and guilt trips. My husband was the Scoutmaster. We were that family. We lived in Morrison Ranch. I drove the minivan. I baked bread every week. I canned jam 3 times a year. I was that mom, and we were that family. Until about 5 years ago, it became very clear that I was struggling. I was struggling in my faith, in both God and myself. I was struggling to maintain normality. I was on a roller coaster of emotions between depression and anxiety, and then diving into the scriptures, going to the temple 3 times a week, and feeling like all was well again. I just had to maintain that. And of course, no human ever can. And so the roller coaster continued. And then I met a friend, and the contrast was so great. See, I had gone through my entire life feeling like my body was something to tempt me. My body was something to subdue. My body was something to disconnect from because it was going to lead me in directions I didn't want to go. My mind was in charge, not my body. That's why I fasted every month. So I was very disconnected from my body. So when people ask, like, oh, were you lusting after women in Relief Society? Like, actually, no. I honestly thought that I just didn't have that gene in me. I thought maybe no one did, right? Like, maybe after you're a teenager, you don't get butterflies in your stomach, or your knees go weak, or your mouth go dry, or any of those things. I thought maybe no one did, but definitely I didn't. And I felt broken for a really long time. And I will never forget, early on, I was at the Neaters down the road with a bunch of friends after enrichment night. And one of them was complaining about their husband, as wives do. And I responded with a somewhat flippant remark about, Well, it's not like wives enjoy sex anyway. Awkward silence. Until one of my best friends looked me in the eye and was like, Elena, yeah, some of us do. And that's when it became real clear real quick that no, it wasn't everyone, it was me. It was me. And when I started to experience those things, that was actually what freaked me out the most. Not that it was towards a person of the same gender, but that I could have been feeling this entire time. I could have found that like crazy, giddy, happy, in love joy. I was capable of that. That's what freaked me out. That's what really knocked me off my rocker. And that was when my body started being real clear. This is happiness. You need to pursue this. This is happiness. And of course, my mind, right, disconnected. My mind was like, absolutely not. Now, I speak all over the country to audiences. I haven't spoken to an audience like this since before the pandemic. And so I don't have to describe the way I usually do about what I had at stake. You all know. I had eternity with my children at stake. And I had worked my tail off for decades to get that position in heaven. And I could not lose it, even though that's what my body wanted so badly. So I enrolled myself in conversion therapy. So let's define what that is right off the bat. Conversion therapy is any therapy whose goal is to suppress same-sex attraction and result in a heteronormative attraction or gender identity. And this can range, there's a spectrum. On one end of the spectrum is very physically invasive. And so what we typically think of is like electroshock therapy, which did and still does happen. It happened at BYU up until the 70s and 80s. On the other side of the spectrum, you have what's considered more of talk therapy. The physical stuff that's happening right now at a lot of the youth camps that you can find all over the country is they will force these youth to watch homoerotic images and then make them drink a drink that will make them vomit so that they create that mind-body connection. On the other end of the spectrum, like I said, is any talk therapy situation in which there's a power differential. So that might be therapist and client, or it could be religious leader and believer. It could even be parent and child. If there's a power differential and the goal is, if you work hard enough, we can fix you, that is conversion therapy. So my conversion therapy took place at Power and Baseline. I went 4 days a week, 2 hours a day, for 6 months, at the cost of $275 a session. My husband was the sole financial provider of our family. And he made it clear that this was important. If we could save this marriage, we needed to. And I agreed wholeheartedly. I do remember at one point at the end of one of my sessions, I had forgotten to pay the time before, and so I was handing him my card and trying to make sure I paid. And he made a comment like, oh, I forgot. I always forget because you're actually the only one that directly pays me. Everyone else, their bishops cut checks to me. That needs to be known. So the premise of this conversion therapy was something happened to you when you were younger that caused you to be afraid of men, a trauma. And that makes you think you're attracted to women. So if we can heal that trauma, then you won't be attracted to women anymore. You'll feel safe around men again. And so we went back into my memories trying to find that event. And about 2 months into it, we hadn't found it. And it was getting really frustrating. I was working really hard, but it wasn't working. I still wasn't attracted to my husband, and I still yearned for that happiness that I felt in this friendship. And so the therapist was like, there's got to be something you're not telling me. And for the first time ever, I divulged that I had been the victim of an experience when I was 15. And he was overjoyed. This is it. This is what made you think you're attracted to women. We healed this, we fixed it. So for the next 4 months, 2 hours a day, I relived that experience, trying to heal it. And here's the thing. If something could make you gay, then something can make you straight. That's the logic, right? But if nothing made you gay, then no matter how hard you try and how much healing of the trauma you try to do, it doesn't work. And the blame is on the patient because you must not be trying hard enough. That is why 57% of participants become suicidal. And that is where I got to. Early in my conversion therapy experience, we were also doing marriage counseling with an LDS marriage counselor, fully certified, accredited, licensed. And at the end of one of our sessions, she was walking us out, and she stopped me at the door as my husband kept going. And she looked me in the eye and she said, "Don't ever tell your children. It will destroy them. You need to take this secret to your grave." And that is the first time that I thought about the grave as an option. And it's logical, right? It's logical to think, I'm doing everything I do for my kids. The whole reason why I'm doing conversion therapy is so that I can be with my kids eternally in heaven. And now to find out that if they ever know, it would hurt them. Well, it's easy to see where the logic went. I had a pivotal day in September 2017 when I was really struggling to not go forward with the plan that had appeared in my head. And a thought came. It is better for my kids to have a gay mom than a dead mom. I thought about them standing at my funeral, and I thought I could never do that to them. I can't do that to them. If I need to be gay in this life so that I can be alive and that they never have that memory, they're going to have plenty of other memories, but if they don't have that one, that's worth it. That's worth me not making it to heaven. That's worth it. So that's what I chose. That day I chose to live. And that meant embracing who I was. And I have to tell you, as hard as healing has been, it's also been the most joyful, life-giving thing I've ever experienced. It is beautiful. It is so cool to give up everything I thought I knew about myself and start from scratch. And to release all the judgment, all the proving of my worthiness, all of the, what did I eat today? What did I say today? Did I pray enough? Did I read my scriptures enough? I was able to release it all so that I could find out truly within me, who am I? What do I like? What do I believe? You know how when you had the church callings, maybe it was a new visiting teaching companion or something, and it's a new person, the first time you meet, you're like, oh, jeez, right? It's a little bit of a struggle. But then time goes by and you've served with them and you get to know them and they get to know you and you start to understand their history and what makes them click and you start to love them. And by the time you're released from that position, man, that person is one of your closest people in your life, right? Because you got to know them, you were able to love them. I realized I didn't know myself. And I couldn't love myself until I was willing to release all the self-judgment that I had and finally get to know myself. So I wonder, how can I fulfill the measure of my creation if I don't know all of my creation? If I've denied a huge part of my creation, so much so that I didn't even know I was capable of having emotions like that? How can I fulfill the measure of my creation if I don't know the infinite potential that I hold? If there's a part of me that's been blocked out? One of the great ways that I explained kind of what I went through was that Okay, if you've ever played Super Mario Brothers, I hope that some of you have. Sometimes there are those hidden blocks, right? They're just kind of outlined and you don't see them until you hit them. Okay, so imagine part of your brain, it's there. You can feel the edges of this lack. It's invisible, and I could tell my emotions could get to a point and then it would stop. And I could make certain connections with people and then it would stop. And it wasn't until I was able to release all of that self-judgment and actually get to know myself that that part of my brain came online. And I could never go back. I was trying to force myself to. But once you have the whole you can't give that up. Now, I am the woman who at one time said to everyone in her life, when it came to LGBTQ issues, hate the sin, love the sinner. I am the woman who, in chatting with a fellow woman in the Relief Society about her gay daughter and her daughter's girlfriend and whether they should be allowed to come in the house, I am the one that said to her, you can't condone that lifestyle. You can't set that example for your younger children. I am the woman who at one time in my life told my children, if you watch porn, it'll make you gay. I have a lot of damage to rectify. But the secret sauce is that I can't judge people who said it or say it now. I can't judge family leaders or organizational leaders. Next month, I'm speaking at a conference in Montana, and I've been told it will be one of my toughest audiences yet. And yet what I can do is go into those situations without judgment. I can't judge them. I was them. But what I can do is empower them with the skills and the knowledge they need to draw their loved ones in and to draw themselves in. I often say to my audiences, the best part of this is that love is never sin, including self-love, including being able to look in the mirror, know all about yourself, and love every single part. That is not sin. That is exactly what God wants us to do. It's vital to encourage our loved ones to look at themselves with fresh eyes, to remove the veil of judgment, and to really get to know themselves, because that's the only way they're going to love themselves. And one of the best ways we can do that is by setting that example for our loved ones. Are we willing to look at every part of us, including our faith, our goals, what we want out of life, what we want out of the afterlife, and really question, who am I really in this plan? Because that's the only way we can fulfill the measure of our creation. The best part of the last 5 years, one of the best, has been being in the car with my child. She was 12 at the time. And I was asking her, those parent questions. How are you doing? Are you handling the divorce okay? Like, is there anything we should talk about? And she said, Mom, I don't know if God loves you. And I was able to testify with every part of me that I know exactly how God feels about me. I am closer to God now than I ever was. God loves me. And when I said that, I could see 50 pounds come off her little 12-year-old body's shoulders. And 6 months later, she came out to me. Totally surprised. My girlfriend not, but me totally shocked. And for all of you parents out there, you need to know that she came out to all her friends first. And when one of her friends was like, have you told your mom yet? And my daughter was like, no, I hate hard conversations. And the friend was like, but your mom. So please know that when your kid has struggled to come out to you, it really has nothing to do about you. It's really their own vulnerability. And frankly, the more important the relationship is, the harder that conversation is to have. So if they've struggled for a while, I've often met parents that are like, I've known since he was 4, I've just been waiting. That means that's one of the most important relationships that child has. They're going to practice with people where the stakes are a lot lower before they come to you. And it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with their own vulnerability. I am a lesbian woman, cisgendered. There's privilege in that. I'm white, ton of privilege in that. I'm straight passing, even more privilege. And my life is amazing. My family is amazing. My relationship is amazing. And my self-love, off the charts. I hope this was helpful. My TEDx talk has all the mindfulness stuff in it, if that interests you. I play on LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram. So I'd love to connect with you. If I can help in any way, please let me know. I'm so grateful for the All Conference to let me have this opportunity to come back to my people, to bring everything I've experienced and learned over the last 5 years, and to share it with you all, and to learn from you as well. Thank you so much for being here.